Everyone. I am not going to be on for very long, but I wanted to kind of talk about this Tyre Nichols thing a little bit because, we've been, it's funny. The media is definitely backtracking. I wrote a blog about this on Substack that they are going to backtrack a lot of their inflammatory rhetoric to the public. Obviously, they need Black people inflamed with racism. Obviously, Biden might be running for president again. So, the Democrats, they don't look good with Black people. And so anything to get Black people inflamed and inspired and feeling like they have a champion in the Democratic Party, they're going to leverage like every news story however they want to. So, what is this? Oh, it's just a shadow. I need my glasses. I'm looking at the pattern. I'm like, what is that? But anyways, I'm listening to, the arguments about this Tyre Nichols thing on both sides. Now, I saw the video and I'm just like, wow, this looks like very exaggerated. I mean, I kind of looked at it like George Floyd almost. This looks very, very, very exaggerated. And I'm like, either this to get Black people inflamed. Something is not right about this Tyre Nichols thing, And of course, they're talking about racism. And then when you get to the cops, it's like, wait a minute. All of those are Black men. And then they get to the white cop, later, who to me appeared to have tased this young man in his male part area. That's what it looked like on the tape to me. So you got all of these men attacking this guy. And, and I said before the body cam hit, I'm like, 9 times out of 10, he made those cops run. Right. And cops don't like to have to run. And I said this before the body cam. I'm like, something is off about this. I feel like cops typically, like, no matter how it's projected to the public, no matter how it's sensationalized to the public, I really do believe that, cops get down to beating and abusing other people, for multiple reasons, right? Either they do not have control of their own life and they're using their badge and the power of their badge to sort of gain some control over somebody else's life because they do have the power of somebody else's livelihood in their hands to some degree, right? Or it's a personal vendetta. Like, I'm looking at this tape and I'm like, or this is a personal vendetta. If they're beating him, one of them know this guy. There's got to be something personal. There has to be a personal element to this particular situation because nothing about the entire scenario warranted what happened to that man. None of the actions were justified. I mean, and even when it got down to Tyre Nichols is on the ground and he's saying, okay, these guys are still abusing and beating this man. So there was something, and I said this before, personal, right? There had to have been something personal between Tyre Nichols and one of those cops. And there's rumors kind of going around the streets that he might have been involved with one of those cops' baby moms. Until that's verified, we shall see. But we need to stop jumping on the train of projected ignorance. And this is specifically to Black Americans. We cannot allow the media and their narrative things to influence our emotions to irrational degrees. What happened to Tyre Nichols was horrible. And I think that if people want to protest their fear about that, I don't think that there's anything wrong with somebody doing a peaceful protest against police brutality so that police understand that regular citizens do not want that. We will not stand for this. And we will protest, against police, the establishment, whether it's your process, your training. We're going to protest against these types of outcomes happening to regular citizens. Jumping on that you shouldn't, resist arrest, and then they got they buck dancing Negroes black faces, right? Speaking on behalf of black people, talking about resist arrest, resist arrest, resist arrest. And it's like, you know what? Yes, we all know the rules. Don't resist arrest, keep your hands on the wheel, all those common sense folks things. But, here's the thing: when you're dealing with poverty line individuals, which most of these people are, you are dealing with a different type of psychology. And I've said this before, middle class people do not have the same mindset as poverty line people, nor do wealthy class people. So, yeah, we know to keep our hands. We know not to resist arrest. But when you live in this environment your entire life, which many of these people do, that's why people call them animals, because in some, I hate to, liken people to these things, but, to many degrees they are, a lot of them are uncivilized because there's nobody teaching them, guiding them, creating environments of aspiration. You're talking about some of these men who turn to crime. I mean, these were kids who had to start committing crime at a very early age. And I talk about this in my blog content because, number one, I don't want people to ever confuse, my content with any other Black conservative that you are viewing, loving, whatever. I am not even part of that conservative movement anymore. I'm an independent libertarian. So I don't want you to just take all of these Black conservative takes on Black people, at face value. Diversify the information that you get about Black people. And I'm not saying go to liberals, but at least give Black independents and libertarians an opportunity to explain some of these things from a pragmatic standpoint where we're not trying to get into your feelings. I'm not trying to incite you to feel anything. I don't want white people to feel like I'm a champion for anti-whiteness, because I'm not. I believe I'm a champion for all people. I don't care if you have common sense, if you are a good person, I will be your champion. So I don't really into these like sob stories of Black foes or white people feeling victimized by what the Democrats are doing. Talk to your Republican people, they punking out on y'all. Y'all don't have champions. Some of y'all need to be libertarians, but I'm not going, that's another day. But, some of y'all conservatives just need to come on over to the independent libertarian, because the Republicans are not for you either. But getting back, though, I hate that, conservatives love to play with the narrative, don't resist arrest. And it's like, okay, yeah, you tell that to these survivalist mindset guys in the poverty line who are likely to do that. But my whole thing is the police should have some type of training, knowing that they're going to deal with suspects that will resist arrest. They should have protocols, down to, what's really messed up is that you can talk to anybody and almost everybody joke about it. But it's like, oh, if you make a cop run, he gonna beat your ass, right? He's gonna beat your ass. That is a acceptable professional response for some people. If you make a cop run, which a cop knows that at some point on his job, he's going to probably have to run and chase somebody, resisting arrest is part of the job. But that should not end in somebody dying. That should not result in cops taking turns beating the hell out of one guy. And some of those cops were much bigger than Tyre Nichols. So you got all that weight on one guy because he made them run. And people are saying, well, you shouldn't resist arrest. It's like, you know what? There's a time to have an argument, and there's a time when you really don't know what to say to just shut the hell up. And that's really what it is. It's like, I'm tired of hearing people, because it's almost like people are saying that Tyre Nichols deserved what he got. If he didn't resist arrest, then he would still be alive. It's like, okay, cops deal with people resisting arrest all the time. Does that mean that resisting arrest should result in that? I mean, that argument in this particular case should be just dead on every single conservative's lips, because what happened in that video was not right. And when y'all want to know why conservatives, Black conservatives, don't resonate with Black liberals and why they can't bring them on from the Democratic Party on to the Republican Party, it's silly shit like that. Because you people are so out of touch with the realities of Black America on so many different levels, and you're buying into the hype. You are being manipulated. You're being manipulated into feeling attacked and being victims too. That's what's happening, conservatives. So don't act special. This whole anti-whiteness, let's talk about that. That's your victim card. That's your victim card that has been manipulated on you. So I think it's time for, when you talk about wake up, my idea of waking up is understanding what's happening to you 360. And even conservatives don't even know what's happening to them, because they'll pick a Black face and have you guys thinking silly and thinking and almost justifying a man being beat to death because he resisted arrest. So everybody being manipulated up in these US of A's. So, don't feel special. Do not feel special, because a lot of y'all are not as awake as you say that you are. Because to hear some of you mainstream people talking about, well, you really shouldn't resist arrest. You really shouldn't resist arrest. We know that. Duh. We know that. But let's talk about the dynamic that we're dealing with right now. Because and then people say that like common sense is common anymore. Common sense is not very common. Even the people running around talking about they got common sense don't have common sense, because they can't connect common sense dots, and they don't even have any type of intellectual restraint to just be like, you know what, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon of that argument, because in this particular situation, every single one of those cops were wrong. Every single one of those cops were wrong. So the resisting arrest argument shouldn't even come into the equation at any point. And this is their go-to. And it's like, that is why, it's almost better to kind of sit back, watch, grab more information, because it's like, no, we don't want to play the racism card with this conversation, because the racism is the farthest thing, from this. If you want to go into psychological dynamics of Black men, you can follow my Substack blog, because I broke this down from a psychological and pragmatic, non-inflammatory way, so that people can kind of understand these social dynamics and why people in the poverty line absolutely would be more inclined to resist arrest, and how even in that instant, cops should be trained to address these situations in a way that does not lead to people dying. Okay, so in this situation, resist arrest argument, let it rest, right? Because it's irrelevant. It doesn't connect. And you're not going to keep lumping all these little side chick arguments to validate something that really, is just unjustifiable. It's not justifiable what happened to that man in that video. It's just not. And you look like an inconsiderate asshole sitting up there talking about this is what happens when you resist arrest. It's like, literally, go to hell with gasoline on your jaws with that. Seriously. Like, it's just a disgusting argument, and people should have more scruples. They really should have more scruples than that. So getting off of that topic, I wanted to go into Project Veritas, because YouTube is censoring that video. I follow Project Veritas on LinkedIn. And so I guess they have posted, some internal memo from YouTube talking about misinformation, and I guess how to get that video flagged. And I guess there's a portion in that video that if you share it, you will get a strike, you will get flagged. So if you're somebody who's covering that Project Veritas story, be very mindful of how you cover it, because you can get some strikes on your content. And, YouTube isn't even sharing this with their content creator communities, they're just doing all this side chick undercover trying to cover Pfizer, I guess. And so they're changing their rules again, these community standards. And it's like, man, even if you're not Team Crowder, I don't care, whatever, whose team you're on. I don't think you should be on anybody's team, but I do agree with Steven Crowder. And all these revelations, all of this continuous censorship is all the more reason why it's going to be imperative for, people to start creating different networks that kind of pull viewership away from some of these mainstream people until they get their minds right. Because I'm telling you, people really do change when money starts hurting, right? You see Disney, you see all these companies who are hurting because they went broke and now they're broke. And so, the second market has to emerge. It has to emerge because right now we are all sort of bought into, these platforms that we have built trust in. And these platforms are saying, you should not trust us. And we are going to be the big brother of thought. And so you don't have any freeness of speech on this. So even if you're stating an opinion, you're not even saying anything definitive, they will strike you, because these are beta people and their feelings can't handle the truth because they're busy trying to lie to people. They are busy trying to lie to people. These chats, here we go. It will be interesting to see if they find a connection between Tyre and any of the police. Yeah, Marshall, because word on the streets is that Tyre might have allegedly, possibly been smashing one of those cops' baby mamas. And that guy was, and that's that microaggression I'm telling you about is some of these cops are just people with titles. I'm an imperfect person. I go to a police academy and I pass, I get a badge or whatever. And now I got a gun and I got a badge to execute the law. And I find that, a lot of times police forces will try to protect their cops, right? To the extent that they can, right? Unless, there's just some obvious wrongdoing that can't be justified, then it's just like, okay, you're on your own, good luck with that, And I don't see a whole bunch of cops rallying around these 5 cops or these cops involved in this. I don't see a lot of cops protesting, police having a bad rap. I think a lot of cops acknowledge that this was excessive force and this was beyond a normal police stop. And I think that, when I looked at that, it looked like they were working him out on some personal stuff. And even the white cop, I don't even look at him as racist. I do not look at that white cop as, participating in a racist act against a Black man. I look at that white cop as a beta male who's hanging around 5 Black guys who he may think is cool. And he's one of the guys because he's probably a loser and don't have any friends outside of the force. So, of course, he's going to be all down for it. What do you call, what's the name of the kid who just kind of goes along with everything or whatever? He's the hype man. He's being the hype man because he's trying to be cool and with these guys. I don't think even the white cop involved had any type of racist innuendo. I think that every single cop involved was being on some beta male microaggressive business, and they took it too far and they ended up killing the man. And I don't think that situation had anything to do with racism. I really don't. I don't think that had anything to do with racism. And if there is a racism connection, then I'm going to say that the Democrats organized it. That's the only way I'm going to accept it. The Democrats, they're real quick to go to racism for everything without even getting the facts of the matter. They're telling you it's racism, it's white supremacy, And you can tell that the addiction to racism is so real for Democrats that even if a situation is devoid of a white person, they are like, it's still racism because it's police brutality, and police brutality is racist. It's like, no, police brutality is sensationalized for Black people. You're really rarely going to ever see an instant where you see cops beating the fuck out of a white guy. You're just really not going to see that. You're really not going to see too many instances where police, the media is sensationalizing the police beating anybody but Black people because they need Black people fearful of the police. This is the psychological manipulation of American society. And, for conservatives, you need to understand that there is a lot of validity to the arguments of the liberal Blacks. They just take their arguments out of context and to extremes. But there's a lot of validity to why a lot of Black people in this nation feel the way that they do. And a lot of it has to do with how the media and how the mainstream continuously project Black people. You look at how Black people, from like when we were in cinema, we started off as slaves and maids, right? And then you transition into like the 50s and 60s, and they tried to kind of give us better roles, but we were still kind of biscuit mammies and everything. And then in the 70s, we were Shaft and we were criminals and stuff. And then in the 80s, we got a break, right? Because you have Bill Cosby really lobbying for Black people to change their mind and break away from social constructs of Blackness. So Bill Cosby gave us a lot of Black-centered shows where Black people were going to college. Okay, Black people had cohesive families. Bill Cosby gave that to Black people because he saw how the mainstream media had continuously manipulated our narrative in the movies, in the cinema, in their news. So when you talk about the mindsets of Blacks and how people are projected, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why Black people feel threatened in America. They feel like they're threats. They feel like they're criminalized. Is because it's projected that way a lot of times. And so I feel like, to be fair to a lot of these arguments, you kind of got to get in the middle and say, why is it like, is this a political argument or is there a layer of social truth to it? And if you can explore the layer of social truth into it, then sometimes you won't come off so ignorant, about what's really happening in the social dynamics that are occurring in this country. So, it's interesting though, because, they went to racism, and I think before everybody saw the body cam, the whatever, we didn't know the race of the cops. It's like, oh, here we go again. A lot of people were projecting this is going to be another George Floyd. But then when we saw the cops, and we're like, oh, this Black on Black. There's not going to be a George Floyd, nothing even close. Obviously a lot of these protesters, and I think somebody on Fox News said it, that they had arrested some protesters somewhere or whatever, and they were from out of town, right? A lot of these people are out of town. Same thing happened in Detroit. Same thing around the George Floyd. A lot of people are arrested in a lot of these high protesting cities, and a lot of these people were not even from those states. So you can tell how organized and paid these little protesters just pop out of no fucking where. It's like, who the hell just organized this like overnight? I know Black people didn't do it because Black people will never be able to just do something in 48 hours like that. Like just all of these people, hell no, we gonna need some planning. We can't even plan a funeral in 48 hours, let alone, you gonna rally up all these people, get them to commit, everybody gonna get in one place, everybody gotta agree on a place. It's like, come on now. These things are so funded. Right? They're so Soros and all these other fringe crazy people who hate America and want to see us chaotic. These Saul Alinsky like fantasizers, those people, these extreme socialist type of people, like, this is their thing, right? They can pop up a bunch of paid or protesters no time. George Floyd actually had a lot of paid protesters. The Democrat Summer of Love was comprised of a lot of paid protester. I think I saw one agreement that was like $75. Like these people got $75. If you were broke, right? And you're doing it in the middle of a pandemic, right? When you're supposed to be at home and quarantining, but you could still protest. You can get $75 to go out there and act a fool, have a little fun, make a little love in a Democrat summer of love, right? So a lot of these protesters, I don't even think these are regular citizens really organizing these. I think these are big money elites who have their Harvard kids and their friends who are mentally ill. Probably some of them have daddy issues. They're like, look, Tommy, call up some of your friends and go fuck up a black neighborhood in the name of Black Lives Matter. All right. I think that's pretty much what it is, with a lot of these protesters. I don't take them seriously, So Tyre Nichols was unfortunate. I definitely don't want to attach the resist arrest argument to this particular situation because what happened to him was horrendous. And I do personally think that it was something more personal versus anything anything close to racially motivated. Liberal media, like, they have mental problems. Like that there's a clear psychological problem when someone wants to attach racism to the fact that these cops are black and they beat up a black man, and they're like, oh, it's just a whole racist system of police. And it's like, bro, do you know how many black police chiefs have been around for decades now? Shut up. How many people used to watch In the Heat of the Night? That was like one of my favorite shows, right? But In the Heat of the Night, 21 Jump Street, right? We've been diversifying these police forces on camera, off camera, it's in real life for decades now. And that's why I tell people, stop buying into these recycled arguments. And that's what they are. They are recycled arguments meant to inflame people in present day America. That's what it is. So what else do I have? Obviously YouTube is censoring Project Veritas's video. So if you plan on sharing that, just go and look at that memo so that you do not find yourself getting a strike. A lot of my content has been censored lately, and I think they're really turning up the heat because a lot of people don't want to look stupid. And a lot of people don't want to take the fall for the fact that they have outright manipulated the public. I think some people have died because of some of these totalitarian decisions that were made in the last couple of years. And I think people are just trying to cover their tracks. That guy, Jordan Tristan Walker, I think they're going to Epstein that kid. I really think he's either going to go into witness protection of some sort, he's going to disappear, or he's going to get Epsteined or something, but he's never going to be able to go in court. He's never going to be seen in court. I don't know if Veritas is going to take him to court just so that they can prove that he exists because they're having a court proceedings with him. Who knows? But Pfizer came out and they tried to clean up, what was said in that video. And they're saying that they're not doing gain of function, they're not doing directed evolution. And part of what their statement, it made sense, because I think we've all known that a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, they reverse engineer viruses just so that they can understand more about them and understand how to create treatments for those viruses. So I don't think that there's anything diabolical about something like that. But if they're actually, evolving the virus to give it a more deadly function, and which I feel like, I'm not sure if that guy alluded to that. I mean, he did allude to the fact that they were sort of engineering viruses. He did mention something like that, and I'm just quoting this guy, so YouTube don't strike me. I'm not saying that's definitively what Pfizer is doing. I'm saying this is what this guy said. But we will see. I mean, this is some pretty eye-opening stuff. Our Michigan legislature actually just sent Pfizer a letter because they want them to explain directed evolution. So a lot of states are getting on this now where they're like, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. We are going to probably need some people to testify. And so I can imagine, in lieu of this video from Project Veritas, that some Pfizer executive is going to have to testify and explain themselves, because right now you got the state of Michigan has already petitioned, and they have and it's a lot of signatures on this petition in my state where they want Pfizer to answer questions. And so if you feel like you want somebody from your state representatives to do that, make sure you reach out and say, hey, the state of Michigan, they just wrote a letter to Pfizer demanding answers, and I think our state should follow suit if this is something that is really important. Your voice is beyond a vote. You can reach out to your representatives, and you can, voice your opinions and your suggestions that way too. So you guys have a wonderful evening. I didn't want to make this too long, but I wanted to kind of get that out of my system about Tyre Nichols and that whole, argument about, resisting arrest, and how it's just really irrelevant for this particular situation. And I think that conservatives need to be more scrupulous before they just jump on that argument, get more information, because they always want to paint Black men as somehow being deserving of what they got because they resisted arrest. And it's like, sometimes not every situation merits that particular argument. And I just wanted to say in this particular situation, it didn't. So like, share, and engage if you like this discussion, and I will catch you on my next live stream. Bye.